Your Partner in Success Radio is a free business podcast with host Denise Griffitts. It's all about great stories, conversation, and context to help you move your business and life forward with actionable tips and advice from her guest experts. To listen and subscribe, just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your podcasts.
Welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio. I am your host, Denise Griffitts, and my guest today, Andrei Mincov, is the founder and CEO of Trademark Factory. Now, this is a company that is dedicated to helping businesses protect their brands through trademark registration. Listen, if you've ever had to trademark anything, this is going to be a fascinating conversation. It's not an easy process. I don't care what anybody says. And his journey in intellectual property law began in 1996 when he successfully defended his father's copyright against Samsung. And that ignited his passion for this field. And after working for a major international law firm representing clients like Apple and Google, Andrei moved to Canada in 2007, where he obtained his Canadian lawyer and trademark agent licenses. Now, in 2013, he rebranded his law firm as Trademark Factory, registered, and he introduced a revolutionary flat fee model that covers the entire trademarking process, along with a 100% money back guarantee and free comprehensive trademark searches. That's where they get you right there. This innovative, not him, other companies, you're like, but you didn't tell me about that one. So anyway, this innovative approach addresses common frustrations with traditional trademark services, such as unpredictable costs and outcomes. Andrei, good morning. Welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio. And I have to say, you're the very first guest of the new year, 2025, and you're calling from Dubai. So thank you for doing that.
Excited to be with you here in 2025, Denise.
This last year went so quickly, and I had to look at my calendar this morning and say, "Oh, we're in a new year."
Yeah,
Technically, I knew it, but I don't think I really had. It had not. I don't know, computed. It's like, wow, here we are. But Andrei, before we get started, can you tell our audience a bit about yourself and how you like to show up in the world?
sure. So as you mentioned in the intro, I have been pretty much doing IP most of my life. And the whole thing started back when I was still living in Russia, where I was born, to a father who was a famous composer there. And one day he got a radio station stealing his music to make an ad out of the song that I used to sing with him when I was a little boy. Um, he would take me on stage to, sing a couple of his songs at the end. And so he took one of those songs and turned that into an ad for Samsung without his permission. And back in the day, I was attending my first law school and really never saw myself as a lawyer. To me, it was just kind of a safe path to make a living in my mind, but certainly not something I was really interested in pursuing. And so, I was just going there, learning stuff and going through different courses. And so I come home and I see my dad is absolutely furious. I'm like, what happened? He's like, well, we got this radio station. They took this song, they turned that into a commercial for Samsung. And when I called them, he says, uh, they told me to sit down, shut up, and be grateful that they were making me and my music even more popular. And if you knew my dad, you'd know right away it was the one thing you shouldn't have said to him. It was a very wrong thing to say. And so he said, okay, I'll see you in court. And he slammed down the phone back. Again, I'm dating myself because that was still the time when you can slam down the phone, right? And and so when he did that, he realized that there really weren't many lawyers in Russia in 1996. who had any experience with the new copyright law, because here's what happened. Russia had just transitioned from the Soviet socialist copyright laws, which basically said that the government owned everything and authors who created their works owned nothing. So that turned into a modern era copyright laws, which are more or less in line with what the rest of the world has now. And like I said, there were really no lawyers who knew any of that stuff. So he came to me and said, "Do you want to take this radio station to court?" And I'm like, "I know nothing about intellectual property or copyright." And he says, "Well, so do pretty much everyone else in this country. So might as well try." So if you don't mind me learning as I go and basically flying this plane as I build it, let's do this. And so he said, "Sure." And what I did is, I was learning on the go. And I took this radio station to court. It took me 2 years to win this case. I had to take it all the way up to the second highest court in the nation. It's my very first case, right? And eventually we won. And so in the process, I got really, well, first of all, I got really passionate about helping people who create something that hadn't existed without them, protect it from those who want to just take it. And second, I got really interested in this area of law, because it's one of those things where you can't put a lock on it, you can't put an alarm on it. It's all very ephemeral. If I'm probably mispronouncing the word, but it's something that
While
only
you said it, I was spelling it in my head. I do that, but no, you were absolutely correct.
Okay, so it's something that only exists because there is a kind of a social contract that, hey, we're not going to steal from creators who create something so that they continue to create. And I felt it was a beautiful construct, and I've been doing this ever since. So my dad was my first and favorite client, the way I like to put it. And I've done, but before I left Russia, which was in 2007, there had not been a single federal TV station that I didn't sue successfully. And I only had to do it once for each of them, because they each wanted a turn, I guess. But once we were able to establish that they couldn't just take his music and and use it without permission, next time we'd catch them, they'd be like, "Okay, so how much?" So, but before I left, I'd worked with the biggest international law firm in the world, Baker McKenzie. Did some work for some of the biggest clients you can think of: Microsoft, Google, Facebook, J.K. Rowling, like all the big names. Like I said, you can think of, probably done something for them, Apple. And in '07, I realized that I had enough of living in Russia, that it really wasn't going in the direction politically where I'd like it to go. And the recent years only confirmed that. And so I moved to Canada thinking that, hey, I'm going to a capitalist paradise, because again, when you live in Russia, you assume that pretty much every place outside of Russia is going to be capitalist paradise. And had to go back to law school, did my 3 more years of law school there. And once I was done, I kind of expected to have a lineup of law firms who'd want to have me work for them, given my experience in Russia, for 13 years as a lawyer. And that didn't happen. So I finished top of my class in half the courses and top 10 in the remaining half. And still I got a grand total of 0 offers from Canadian law firms. And that's how my entrepreneurial journey began. I was sitting there thinking, like, what do I do now? Because I didn't want to go back with my tail between my legs. And I had this Canadian law degree and a lot of frustration. And that's how I discovered Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And
Everybody knows who he is. We've all read him. We've all listened to him.
yeah, yeah. And I've shared the stage with him once at an event where we were both, in front of a large crowd of entrepreneurs. And I will never forget that moment, because to me, that was kind of me, um, you know, being in the same stage with one of my huge inspirations. So I got that book and I'm like, you know what? If I started a law firm here, I can't probably do much worse than just being an unemployed ex-lawyer. So I did that, and very quickly I realized that um, one thing was missing from that whole successful law firm story. That one thing was clients. I realized
I'm
that,
sorry, I'm laughing, but yeah, you do need them to be successful, don't you?
right?
I knew you were going to say that. I wrote down clients just as you started to articulate it. I went, oh, I got it. Okay, keep going.
Right. Um, I realized it was the first time in my life I actually had to look for clients, because, my dad came to me as a client. The law firm supplied me clients to work on. And that was the first time I'm like, where do those damn clients are supposed to come from? Right. And this is when I realized that running a successful law firm is very different from being uh, a lawyer who knows what to do and how to do things, from the legal perspective. And that's how my focus started shifting from lawyering toward sales, marketing, building a team, and just, building a business, really. And on that path, I realized that I needed to do something differently compared to what everyone else did in order to be noticed. And I remember my very first International Trademark Association meeting in Dallas, Texas, in 2013. It was, yeah, that's when I came up with a name, Trademark Factory. So for a couple of years, I started the firm in 2011, and until 2013, I was operating under this really creative name called Mincov Law Corporation. and then so by 13, I realized that, you know what, let's come up with something bold and ballsy. And so that was Trademark Factory. The name came to be. And so I put together the website that went live like literally 3 days before I flew to that International Trademark Association meeting. So if you can imagine 10,000 trademark attorneys from around the world in one room, that's exactly what it was. It was 10,500 something that year. And so I was so scared to go there that I'm like, I gotta come up with something crazy. And basically I said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna say we are the only firm that offers trademark registration for a flat fee that covers everything from start to finish. We offer it with a money back guarantee in case it doesn't go through. And we include a comprehensive trademark search in the beginning of the process that will tell you, hey, if it's not trademarkable, you don't need to move forward. You can get all your money back. And so nobody was doing anything remotely like this in 2013. And everyone with whom I shared this story, and because again, they're all attorneys, right? I told them about this. They say, Andrei, you're nuts. This cannot be done. And the more I was hearing it, the more I was liking it, because to me it validated the idea that um, they're not going to copy the model, because they don't believe in that. And so I came back and doubled down on it, and saw that there was enough market demand for it. And so that's how really Trademark Factory grew, and got into what it is today. We've done, we've held, tens of thousands of clients. We filed thousands of trademarks, and we have a industry record breaking success rate of 99.3%, which I'm extremely proud of. But what I'm, the most proud of course, is that we're still around, where we're helping brand owners who value their brands protect them. Because to me, this stuff is almost as personal as it was when I was helping my dad, because I realized that a brand is something that's super important for those who create it, and they want to make sure it remains theirs.
Of your entrepreneurial story. And I'm just going to say what I'm thinking internally out loud. Entrepreneurs are nuts. We're not actually sane people for the most part. We have these tremendous ideas. Oftentimes, and I've done this myself, we have not done the work to, is this going to work? Is this marginal? Am I out of my mind? We just go do it because we believe so firmly in it, and off we go. So I love your story. I've done same thing. I shouldn't admit it, but when I started my podcast 18, 19 years, no, it's 19 years old now today. Um, I don't know if I should get it a driver's license or throw a debutante ball. I don't know what to do about it, but nobody knew anything about podcasting. I certainly didn't, but I thought I can do this, and off I went, and here I am. So sometimes you have to go with your gut. Yeah, you have to do the math. Yes, you have to do some, certain types of work. But if it's in your heart and in your soul and you're going to go with it, I say go with it. What do you have to lose?
Exactly, exactly. And there's there's a lot of fun in this. There's a lot of ways how it can help you build the life that you want, and do the stuff that you do want, right? And delegate the stuff that you don't want to do. That's helpful too.
Exactly. And I was right. I take a lot of notes when I'm listening to my guests. It's under the heading entrepreneurship. You talked about sales, marketing, building a team. Again, these are things that we don't think of when we're going, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Let me go do that. You find out this stuff later on and you're like, well, crap. Now what? So been there, done it. I'll do it all over again.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So trademarks, I mean, it's a fascinating story. So you decided that you needed a talking point. I'm guessing you needed to offer something that just really didn't exist. And if you only had 3 days to get there, I'm guessing that you didn't put a whole heck of a lot of research into it, but you ran with it, and look where you are now.
Well, the putting of this up took a bit more than 3 days. I said I launched it 3 days before I went to the event,
Right.
because basically I just rushed to get this out before the event. But it's been quite a journey, and it's interesting how the how my attitude has changed over time. Because I remember in the early days, yeah, it was all about attending that big conference, and I've done it for several years in a row. And then I sort of stopped when I discovered the paid traffic model. I'm like, I don't really need to go there. I can just run ads on Facebook and Google. And now I'm sort of combining the benefits of both. I'm kind of putting myself back on the let's get the best of both worlds territory, right? So it's both the paid ads, but also being back to being recognized as a lawyer, right? So it's interesting how things do evolve over time, and I think if there's a lesson that uh, that I can teach, myself as 10 years ago, it would be never say never, never say never, because some of the things that some of the decisions that we make, we're like, what, this is going to be my line in the sand. But it's a good idea to come back to those lines in the sand every now and then and ask yourself, is it still serving me? Or maybe it's time to see if circumstances have changed.
Because we can get so busy and we get so caught up with what we're doing, think, oh, this is really successful. I'm having a great time. But then if you don't go back, and I journal quite a bit, and I'll go back and look in my journals and say, hey, that was a terrific idea. Can I work that into what I'm doing today? Oftentimes I can't. I just forgot about it.
Yeah, exactly.
You trademark registration, how does that differ from copyright and patent protection? And you mentioned, branding, so we're going to go back to that a little bit too. But it's easy for us as, I don't know, newbies, if you will. So I'm going to trademark that. And then all of a sudden we're going down a big old rabbit hole because we don't know why we're trademarking it, what needs to happen. Is it actually going to serve us? So walk us through that.
Okay, so let's start with the difference between a trademark, copyright, and patents. Let's start there. So these are all different types of intellectual property. And by the way, the term intellectual property is just an umbrella term that doesn't really mean anything specifically. It could either be copyright, patent, trademark, know-how, things like that. So what I like to do, how I like to explain this is through, I call them magic words. So for each type of intellectual property, I have one magic word that explains the whole thing. So for copyright, the magic word is how. And the reason behind this is that what copyright protects is the way you express your ideas, how you do it. So, for example, it protects books and music and videos and software, but it doesn't protect the substance behind it. It doesn't protect the idea behind it. It protects the way that you've expressed that idea. So, if I write a book on intellectual property, for example, which I've done multiple times. I have 7 books. The content there is not something that I can say, hey, nobody now can write books about intellectual property because I did. But my copyright in the book allows me to stop anyone from copying the book, either the full thing or just take a page from the book and say they wrote it. So that's the stuff that copyright does, right? It protects the way a certain idea, a certain thought, a certain feeling was expressed. Or like, hey, if I wrote, if I write a song about how a boy meets a girl and they have some good time, again, it doesn't mean that nobody can write songs about that same thing, or that they cannot write songs in E minor anymore just because I did, but what I can do is I can stop them from copying my melody, copying my song, right? So that's copyright. Patents the magic word for patents is what, because patents is as close as you're going to get to being able to protect that underlying genius idea. They protect inventions in the sense of if you come up with a new innovative product or a new method of doing something, that's something you can maybe get a patent on if it's original enough, if it's not obvious, and if it's useful. And for trademarks, the magic word is which. And the reason being, trademarks, they protect brands. They could be a name, a logo, a tagline. They protect brand elements, but it's easier for me to say you protect your brand. But really, a brand is this amorphous thing that combines everything: the how you feel about the brand, how what you remember. There's all those things that you've heard being said a billion times. But all of those amorphous things have symbols. They have how people actually come to think of the brand, right? And if I would say, I challenge you to think of any successful business without thinking of its brand. You cannot do it because the brand is what you think about a business when you think about it. But there are elements, right? There are the brand name, names of products, names of services, names, the logos, the taglines, maybe colors, maybe smells, maybe some sounds, something like that. And so the purpose of a trademark is to help consumers to tell products or services of one company apart from identical or similar products of everyone else. So here's why I use the magic word which for trademarks. So if you go to a supermarket and you walk by an aisle with ketchup, or you walk by an aisle with toothpaste, right? Toothpaste is a good example. You'll see basically the same glop poured into different tubes. And the only way you can really tell one from the other is the name on the box, the name in the packaging, the name on the tube, the name, the logo. And that's exactly the purpose of a trademark. So when you walk down that aisle, you're like, aha, that's my toothpaste, right? The funny thing is with brands is that you very quickly start referring to them as your brands because you keep using them because with toothpaste, how often do you change the brand of your toothpaste throughout your lifetime? Not very often. And that's what makes a brand valuable. So what a trademark does, it allows the companies who came up with those brands and started promoting those brands to legally be able to stop everyone in their industry to not use their brand to compete with them. And to that point, trademark is really the only way to protect your brand. There's no other way. Nothing else works. Registering your LLC, incorporating your company, putting a C in a circle to say, hey, I own copyright on this logo, getting a domain name, registering a Facebook profile. None of that shit works. The only way you can protect your brand is through getting a trademark. And without a trademark, really, it's not that you don't own your brand. You don't. But without a trademark, you don't even have a brand, because a brand or having a brand means that you can legally stop copycats from copycatting you. And that's what trademarks do.
Because I mentioned at the top of the show when I was talking about Trademark Factory, and I mentioned that it's registered. Tell us what the difference between trademark and registered is, or is that just another step in the trademark?
So a registered trademark is the status of you having completed the process with the government trademarks office where they recognize your exclusive right to the brand element that you wanted to trademark. So at first, a brand only lives inside the head of someone who came up with that, right? So like, you have a spark of genius. Hey, let's call this service whatever. uh, it was so easy before to just call it X, right? But now with
Right. And
Elon,
we're going to go ahead and move on over to AI in a minute too. So keep that in your mind.
so with Elon rebranding Twitter, like when you say, "Hey, let's call it X," it suddenly has a
It's
totally
Twitter.
different ring to it,
Yeah.
right?
It's going to be Twitter to me till the day I go. I'm telling you, I just can't do X. It doesn't mean anything to me. Twitter, however, does. So he may
So,
have some struggles with that one.
but with how much money has made, those troubles
I
don't seem very
know.
significant.
I know. It's Twitter. That's my line in the sand. So
So anyway, going back to this, like first, whoever comes up with this idea that let's call it rainbows and lollipops, right? And that very moment, nobody knows the brand, right? Only the person who came up with it. And then what starts happening is they start making some products. They start promoting the brand. They say, and more people tend to hear about it and learn about it. And the second the brand is conceived, the value of it is zero, the actual value. There might be a huge amount of potential value, but until the brand becomes something, its value is very, very, very low. Like, for example, when Steve Jobs came to Wozniak and said, "Hey, I have this great idea. Let's call this thing Apple," right? That very moment, the value of the brand was nothing because nobody knew their computers as Apple, right? And as they started putting products on the market, the value of the brand grew and grew and grew and grew. And now I think the last time I looked at it, it was over $300 billion. Just the value of the brand alone, not their software, not their factories, not their phones, just the brand. So the value goes up, but with time, if you do things right, but the registrability goes down because the more you are on the market, the more valuable it is, the more likely it is that someone else will have filed for a trademark that's similar enough that's going to prevent you from owning this. And so there is this process that the governments came up with, where if you want to have a legal monopoly on your brand, you can file what's called a trademark application with the trademarks office of that country and say, "Hey, I want to claim this brand, this name or this logo or this phrase in connection with these products or services that I'm going to be offering to the public." And the government, in its infinite wisdom, will appoint an examiner or a trademark attorney who's going to look at your application. And at some point, right, it takes a while until they get there. And they will see whether indeed the application that you file for a brand that you want is something that's worthy of approval. And if it is, they're going to approve it. If not, they're going to issue what's called an office action, which is a letter that lists reasons why they don't think your brand is worthy of being registered. And so that's really where the real work begins. When you work with that trademark examiner or a trademark attorney, examining attorney, to either convince them that they're wrong or to fine tune your application to make it fit their standards, so to speak. And after the whole thing process, unfolds, at the end of that, they will say, okay, great, your trademark was approved. It was allowed because it survived the opposition period. And after it gets allowed, there's some post-allowance formalities that I don't want to bore your audience with. But after all of that's said and done, they will issue a trademark registration certificate, which means your trademark is registered. And so to me, there are kind of three big stages that every brand element goes through. First, there is the danger zone. This is the time between you coming up with a brand and you having filed your trademark with a trademarks office, right? All the time that you go out there and network and tell your buddies that, hey, we'll have this amazing new thing, and here's my business card, and I have this website that tells you more about it. All of that, right? And you doing some searches, and you buying up domain names, and you getting up, buying up, not buying up, getting your social media profiles, all of that stuff. You're still in the danger zone because you have not done anything to start the process of claiming that name for yourself. So after
Quick
you do,
question, and this just popped into my head when you said that. Don't you have to, when you're applying for a trademark, don't you have to prove that you've actually been working with that name for a while?
no.
Okay,
So
keep going.
to file your trademark, so we should definitely go back there at some point, but you can file a trademark without having released a single product or rendered your service to anybody. So that's what's called an intent to use trademark, and that's what most successful businesses do. They actually file their trademark before they make an announcement about their brand, because if they don't, they're going to end up having to spend 100 times more money fighting over the brand that could have been theirs much easier. So that's still the danger zone, right? You file that trademark, that the danger zone stops, and you have a new zone. It's called protection. Which means that nobody can successfully get a trademark for the same brand in the same type of industry after you file it. But it's still just, you're somewhat protected. And once the process is over and you get a registration, that's when you get in the ownership zone. So that process takes about 1.5 years in the US now, about 3 years, 4 years in Canada, about 1 year in Europe. So a lot of people think it's it's just as easy and quick as it is to get a domain name. All you have to do is fill out the form and pay a little bit of a government fee. Not really. It takes a long time. So if you think that if you think that you need a trademark registered for your investors, about 6 months from now, you're about 1 year too late. So,
I had no idea. I mean, I can see people just saying, "Oh no, now what?"
well, now what is you really need to get the process started sooner rather than later, because think about this. If you go to a mall, right? More than 90% of the stores in that mall are trademarked. If you go to a supermarket, then more than 90% of the revenue that the supermarket makes is from products that are trademarked. Even if you look at Amazon with all of the third-party products, over 70% of the revenue is made by products that are trademarked. And that's not a coincidence. It's not a fluke. if you look at your own personal credit card statement, what you are personally spending your money on, I bet more than 70% of that is spent on products and services that are trademarked. And, as entrepreneurs, we're like, hey, all of this can wait until I have millions in the bank. But it doesn't work that way. You don't get to the point of having millions in the bank by not doing what successful businesses do. And statistics are very clear on this. A brand is very important, and owning the brand is even more important. And if you look at successful players in your industry, you'll notice that they all do the same thing. And one of those things is protecting their brand and making sure that this little, you know, I's I is dotted and all of those T's are crossed.
I've always been aware that it's important to have all of this in play, but I don't think I understood in fact, I know I didn't understand how intricate it can be and why it's so important. So I'm glad we're having this discussion. And, when you're saying that it can take that long, I had no idea, zero idea. And I'm scribbling down notes like crazy because I need to talk with you about my brand at some point. And it's interesting that we don't think like your dad. You didn't think to protect, well, he couldn't until you came along, but to protect your work. I mean, what these people were doing when they took his song, that was straight out theft. And we see it all the time. We really do. It's just not uncommon.
Yeah, and well, here's the thing. And my dad, I guess, is a good example of that. You registering a trademark will not automatically stop the bad guys from being bad guys, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be seeing all the fake Louis Vuitton bags,
Right.
It
Yeah.
does,
If
it
it's
does,
coming out of a trunk of a car, it's not real.
yeah. But at least it gives you a way to fight this, because without it, you're just going to look at that and say, oh well, right? And same with my dad, right? You can't stop a radio station from taking that music and turning that into a commercial, but the intellectual property laws allow you to have some recourse and maybe get something out of it. And so with this, I have this saying, a trademark is not going to make your business successful. But I can guarantee you that your successful business is not going to have the same brand if you don't trademark it soon enough. We have this situation with, well, that's not we. So there's this amazing AI company, 11 Labs. I love them to bits. They do some really great stuff with audio AI, and they've just found themselves recently in a pickle of a situation when they try to file their trade. Well, they filed their trademark only to find out that some guy filed for exactly the same trademark a few days before they did, and so now their trademark application is denied. And now they are trying to figure out how to go about this, because it's identical trademark that covers exactly what their scope of industry is. And so what they could have easily done for a couple of $1,000 properly, if they only did it early enough, now it's probably going to cost them significantly more than that. It's probably going to be in the tens, or more likely in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to deal with this stuff. And more importantly, it creates the uncertainty that nobody wants, right? Investors don't want the uncertainty. The partners don't want that uncertainty. Banks don't want this uncertainty. The only ones who profit from this are lawyers who are going to be fighting this
Right.
and just billing and billing and billing. So people, one of the questions I get probably the most often, uh, both from clients and in interviews like this, is, hey, so when should I trademark my brand? Uh, and the answer is,
Yesterday.
well, almost. Like I have a tongue-in-cheek answer on this. It goes like this. Well, it really doesn't matter as long as you do it at least one day before somebody else does. Right. Of course, you don't know when that happens, right?
No, no.
And so the real answer, a practical answer, is as soon as you realize that you are going to spend some amount of effort, some amount of money, some amount of time trying to promote that brand. Because there's no reason in the world to spend any money, any time promoting a brand that you don't own. And Even worse, sometimes about half of the times when people come to us and say, hey, I want to trademark this brand, about half the times the brand that they have is a brand that they can't have. They can't own it because they picked a name that's too close to somebody else's, and they have no idea about this. Because trademarks are very different from domain names in the sense that if you want a domain name, and the one that you want is taken, all you need to do is just add number one, or the in front, or my in front, and you're going to get it. With trademarks, it doesn't work that way, because with trademarks, they look at lookalikes, they look at sound alikes, they look at mean alikes. And so if just adding something stupid like the in front of a brand is not going to make a brand trademarkable. Like, you cannot trademark the Microsoft uh, and hope to own it for the software services. That's not how it works. And so um, the the important thing here is to know that not only can you be trying to promote a brand that you cannot own, you can be promoting a brand that's going to get you in so much trouble, because if someone owns a trademark that's similar to the brand that you're trying to go out there, they can sue you, and if they win, and they will likely win if they have a registered trademark, they can go after all the money that you made under this brand.
Well,
Every
I
all
guess
of
that
them,
makes sense because it sucks, but that does make sense.
right? And so what everyone thinks, when you start a business, and I was one of them, is that for the first little while, we're going to fly under everyone's radar. We're going to struggle. It's going to be difficult. We're going to do the foundational stuff. We're going to figure things out. And then one day, very quickly, we'll find a way that there will be this rocket ship. We're going to have this, the hockey stick graph, when suddenly we're going to go from nearly broke to making millions, right? Everyone has this dream that it's going to suck in the beginning, and then something is going to happen, and the world is going to know about us. The world is going to know how great we are, and we're going to be swimming in cash. And everyone thinks that whatever problems that they have around owning their brand, they'll be able to fix at the time when they're swimming in cash. The reality, unfortunately,
That's not a plan, by the way. That's not a good plan. So keep going.
yeah, but this is kind of the illusion that a lot of entrepreneurs have. The reality is, of course, very different, right? There's going to be a gradual growth. It's not going to be the hockey stick, and the problem is, nobody's going to go after you when you're not making any money. because going after you would cost them money that they don't want to spend fighting someone with no cash to go after. But they're going to go after you when you just start making enough, right? And that's the problem, because you, like, if you get to making, I don't know, $500,000, right, a year, it's, to you it may be noticeable, right? But imagine having to have a lawsuit, and the statistics are an average trademark litigation lawsuit is going to cost you 135 grand, right? Just
No,
on
no,
lawyers.
no. Well, and that leads me to my next question, and you may be talking about this and haven't gotten to it yet. What do you do when you get an infringement letter? I mean, you're already in trouble, right?
Yeah. So and here's actually a good point. With those demand letters, the biggest value of a trademark registration is not that um, you're going to have it easier in a courtroom, which of course you will. But the biggest advantage is that it will prevent unnecessary litigation, because here's how this works. So let's say you send someone a demand letter saying, hey, I've had this brand forever and you are a bad guy, you are infringing on my brand, you're a copycat, stop doing this. The first thing they're going to do, the bad guys, they're going to show your demand letter to their lawyer, and the first thing the lawyer is going to do is he's going to check whether or not you bothered to trademark this brand. And if the answer is no, you haven't filed a trademark, you haven't registered it,
Right.
they're going to go back to their client, the bad guy, and say, you know what? Ignore this, because if these guys hadn't bothered to do a simple, relatively inexpensive thing that would have secured their ownership of this brand, what are the odds that they're actually going to go to court and spend anywhere from 50 to $250,000? Zilch. It's not going to happen. So ignore it, and if they do actually end up filing against you, then we'll figure out what to do. This is really how the advice is going to go. Now, go back and take a slightly different scenario. You had trademarked this brand. So again, they're going to show this demand letter to their lawyer. Their lawyer is going to look at that. They're going to find that you have a trademark. So the advice is going to give to their clients, the bad guys, is going to be, guys, immediately take this down. Don't pay them, because let's hope that you taking it down is going to be enough for them to walk away and not want to spend more money on this. But there's no way you can win this, because they have a registered trademark and you don't. And like I said, the huge value of a registered trademark is that it prevents litigation by getting people to comply to to your reasonable requests. And so that's why, to me, it's just absolutely crazy to see entrepreneurs who go out there, who spend so much time, so much money trying to promote brands that aren't even theirs.
Yes, and I wanted to ask you very quickly because this popped into my head. What if you had a trademark but it's lapsed and you're trying to restore it?
If you're within the window when you can restore it, well, obviously do that. But oftentimes we find entrepreneurs who weren't properly notified by whoever filed their trademark that they needed to
Right.
do a renewal or the maintenance filing between the 5th and 6th anniversary. If you're outside of that window, well, tough shit. You can't really do anything other than file the trademark from the very beginning. And the fact that you used to have a registered trademark before is not necessarily going to help you. So they will look at that as a completely independent process. If laws changed in the middle and the rules for examination changed, what was registered before might not be registrable today. And if someone jumps in the middle, someone else files a trademark that's similar to yours and they have it, basically you're now going to be the second in line, and they'll end up owning your brand. So be very, very, very careful with
Right.
this. I mean, you've done all the hard work, you've done all the right things, you own this. So make sure that you have it in your calendar to renew your trademark. Make sure that you are paying attention to this, because the trademarks office it's not their responsibility to notify you, to remind you that, hey, your trademark is about to lapse. That they may do it, but they don't have to. And oftentimes your emails will change. You get 300 emails a day and you don't notice this. So again, it's your responsibility as a brand owner to make sure that you got this dialed in, and or at least you have someone who is paying attention on your behalf.
Right. So it really is your responsibility, and that's what I'm hearing is the most important part of this conversation. It's your responsibility. So, ooh, we are running out of time. Um, Quickly, how has the process of trademark registration evolved with technology? Because you just briefly touched on that.
Um, the the process itself hasn't really evolved enough yet. I think a lot of it is still done by, well, all of it is still done by humans. There are some systems that make it easier to do the search to see what's out there, right? Before you had to go to the library and actually uh, uh, just look at the books. Now there are all sorts of software that allow you to find trademarks that are similar to the ones that you're trying to get. But AI at this point is not reliable enough to just say, hey, to first tell you whether or not your brand is trademarkable. We see a lot of mistakes that it makes. And the biggest problem with AI is that if you have no idea how to interpret whether or not you're getting a good response or not, you might be relying on something that's completely erroneous. So it's like, to me, it's like you need to write a letter that could be life and death situation, but you have to write it in Chinese, right? And you don't know Chinese, right? I probably wouldn't trust a machine to just do a machine translation and send something that I have no idea what I'm sending,
Mm-hmm.
uh, if it's a life or death situation, right? I use AI all the time. Like I have conversations with ChatGPT about all sorts of things on a daily basis, but we still have humans on the team that do the trademarking process, right? And it's not and it's not because you know because I don't want to make our process more efficient. Of course, you always want the right answer, in 1 second, rather than have to pay someone on the team to do it in a day or more, right? But AI is just not there yet to
Mm-hmm.
uh, to 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 uh, to trust us with. Again, with the problem with trademarks, the biggest problem with trademarks is that it takes so much time, right? You file your trademark, you won't hear whether the government likes it or not until many months into the process, right? If it was like, hey, you file your trademark and uh, 30 seconds later they tell you yay or nay, then of course it would have been so much safer to just file something, works, all you're risking is the government fee, right? But the biggest problem is that you have no idea whether or not it's going to go through. And during that time, those 9 months, for example, in the US, while you're waiting, what are you going to do? You're going to keep investing time and money promoting that brand, not even knowing whether your chances are any good. And that's where the biggest risks are, right? It's the time, not the money.
Well, before I reluctantly let you go, what advice would you give to startups regarding trademark strategy? And we've been talking about branding, which, as far as I can tell from this conversation, your trademark is a very important part of your branding. Without one, you don't really have the other. So, startups, what would you tell them to pay attention to right now?
Um, can I be honest? It was a question. Can I
Yeah,
be honest with you? Yeah.
I,
Okay.
yes, please.
Um, Go to trademarkfactory.com and get yourself on a call, on a free call with one of our strategy advisors. Because I cannot give universally applicable, recommendation in this interview. And what these guys do is they'll be able to hear your story and really understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish. The you usually entrepreneurs have multiple brand elements, right? They have the name, maybe the logo, maybe the tagline. They have different products, different ideas. They're trying to figure out what they're doing now, what they're going to do a few years from now, and the the role of our trademark strategy advisors on those calls is not just to, you know, um, sell you our services. Obviously, that's what they're there for, but the real value that you get out of that conversation is clarity as to what you should start with in which country, because trademarks are done on a per country basis. There's no such thing as a global trademark. And most startups, as you said, they don't have the budget to do what Apple does, which is, they come up with a new icon for their OS. They go and trademark that in pretty much every country of the world, right? Startups can't do that. And so what the honest recommendation is go talk to someone who knows what you're going through. One of our strategy advisors actually currently is a former client. I mean, he's a current client, but we did one of his trademarks, and he loved the process so much that he decided that he wanted to be a strategy advisor for us, right? And so they're not attorneys, but they understand the mindset of an entrepreneur, of a startup owner, a founder who has a billion things uh, that they need to take care of. And so they can give proper advice as to what you should do, where you should trademark, how you should do it. And if you feel that the way that Trademark Factory can help you is something that is a fit for you, they'll be able to help you get started. But honestly, this is the most valuable use of your time now. If you're thinking, hey, is trademark for me? Is it not for me? Talk to someone who can answer all your questions for free.
That you may not even have. That's the great thing about a consultation with people who know what the heck they're doing. They're going to ask questions that have seem to come out of the ether, and you're like, oh, I never thought of that. Well, of course you didn't, but they will ask. So, Andre, before I let you go, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share? And where can our audience connect with you?
Um, Final thought is really this. There's a reason you came up with your brand. There's a reason that you didn't choose to sell your products or services with no name or with no logo, with no tagline. You came up with all of this stuff for a reason. And I'm sure that when you did, you had this dream that one day this will be a household name, and all of your efforts trying to build this brand up to a certain point are going to be rewarded. I can tell you this. The only way this happens is if you do two things. One is if you sell or give to the market what it wants, right? If your products and services are bad and nobody wants to buy them, no amount of trademarking is going to fix that. But if you give the market what it wants, then the other thing you need to do is you need to own that brand, because the only way you're going to reap the benefits of having built a valuable brand is if you trademark it early. So your brand is not worthless, trademark it before it's too late. And where to go? Again, trademarkfactory.com. You'll find a way to book that call with our strategy advisors. You can call, you can email, but really the easiest way is to just find that button on the website that puts you in front of our strategy advisors. If you're like, you know what, before I hate talking to real people, maybe I need more information. If you're one of those people, you can go to YouTube and search for Trademark Factory. I've published more than 1,000 videos on trademarks. If you have a question about trademarks, I've probably answered it more than once. So that's your other avenue. But again, honestly, nothing beats having a conversation one-on-one with someone who's in your corner, someone who wants to help. So do that.
Well, listen, to our audience, as we wrap up today's episode of Your Partner in Success Radio, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure exploring the world of trademarks and their importance with business with our insightful guest. And remember, protecting your brand is crucial for long-term success, and Trademark Factory offers a unique approach to make that process easier and more accessible. To reach Andrei Mincov of Trademark Factory, visit their website at trademarkfactory.com. And if you enjoyed this discussion and want to dive deeper into the topics we covered, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast for more valuable, I can't talk, more valuable insights from industry leaders. Andrei, thank you. It has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.